Is OBS lying to me? Perhaps OBS is lying to me. God damn it. I hate this thing. I don't think OBS is lying to me when it says we're live, but YouTube says we're not live. So I can never I can never tell which one it is 100%. Do 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 do. And what makes it worse is we look like idiots. Because we sit here in silence for minutes at a time. Okay, yes, it looks like we are live. Hooray! So hello everyone and welcome to this episode of The Filthy Casuals. Well, as always, I am your host Clayton. I am joined by my co-host Caesar,
Hey,
and this may come as a shock to most of you, but I love D&D. From its very introduction into my life, I have loved and enjoyed it. So, with all the 5e content there is, which I can count, other than the base books, at least 3 books that I have that I've paid Wizards of the Coast for. Yeah, 3 now, because I got a new campaign guide yesterday for a very unique campaign setting. And I will shout them out, whether you know about them or not. It's called the Grim Hollow, and they have it's called Grim Hollow by Ghostfire Gaming. Look them up. Trust me, I just finished reading out the campaign guide like right before we went live. It's worth the read. And the PDF is only like $25. Plus, they've got a Kickstarter for their next project going. So I'm gonna shout that out too. Mr. Rex introduced me, but he's got a way bigger audience than we do, so just doing my part. Anyway, there will also be, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do it, because right now it's being a pain in the ass, a reaction to the Enola Holmes movie, or at least part one of our reaction to the Enola Holmes movie with Lord Commander Dunn, who, big ups to him, he basically made that happen. So, oh, yeah, big thank you to him. So, the subject of today's video, in line of, I guess, stream in line of D&D, is a lovely article from CBR.
oh boy. I just read the first sentence of it, and I already, well,
I read
it's
I
already
read
got me
through the whole
boiling.
thing.
You poor soul.
Mm. So, the
Welcome, work to you.
the article is titled "Dungeons and Dragons Should Eliminate Racial Bonuses." This Dungeons and Dragons features racial bonuses, which gives players certain advantages on skill checks, proficiencies, but this system is super flawed. Now, this comes on the heels of the most recent Wizards of the Coast book, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, where basically you can create your own character. Like, they have a lineage feature now, which means like, oh, if you want dark vision on a human, you can have dark vision on a human. And everybody is super kind of thing. So
Should that just be should that be the video's thumbnail? Just have Syndrome saying with everybody super, nobody will be.
basically, so I'm not sure how like 100% how the lineage feature works, but it is mentioned here. So basically, you can have your tiefling just no longer have the features that a Goliath has, have the racial features that a Goliath has. You can have a human be somewhat distantly related to a Furbolg and just be able to go invisible on their ones at the end of their turn. Like basically any racial ability that any other um race has, you can have with this lineage feature. It may also apply to racial bonuses. I'm not sure if it does. But yeah. Oh, chat's being active tonight. Let me 1 second. Let me see if I can pop it out because I like reading the chat. The chat's always interesting. God damn it. I don't know why I bother clicking that button. There we go.
Worse than you? I assume you meant Common Rider, not Karen Rider. That would make for an interesting franchise, though.
It would. So, oh, let's. So let's find out why Dungeons and Dragons should eliminate the racial bonus system.
Trying to imagine what Karen Rider would be like. Guess I guess sort of like Power Rangers, but Rita Repulsa just walks into restaurants and just screams at people.
Mm-hmm. Dungeons and Dragons has the same problem a lot of other mainstream fantasy media had. As a lot of other mainstream fantasy media, it's racist.
Spot the not fan.
Spot the person who's never actually played Dungeons and Dragons. The Wizards of the Coast tabletop role playing game has been a staple of nerd culture since its debut in 1974. In many ways, the game has improved significantly across editions. However, racial bonuses are still a major mechanic of character creation, which points out persistent flaws in the game.
That's not a flaw.
Yeah, it's
It,
differentiating the races. It's means the races are different, but these aren't really. But even like if we're really getting down, race isn't the right word for what you encounter in Dungeons and Dragons. Species would be better would be a better term for them. Like elves are not a elves come from the Feywild. Like they come from an entirely different plane of existence. And same with orcs. Or same with dragonborn. Like the only races in D&D that spawn off of that have spun off from other races are the Durgar and the Drow. Oh, and the Drow. But even then, those are different. But even then, those are subspecies of dwarves and elves. wolves. Human is not the default in Dungeons or Dragons. You have a mul like in the world of Forgotten Realms. In the world of the Forgotten Realms, you have a myriad of different species all living together. Or these aren't various races. These are species, and they have different naturally different and naturally have different biological functions than others. For example, the Goliaths are descended from giants. Same with the Firbolg. But so the Goliaths are taller or heavy set, are taller and heavy set. Like they're basically bulky. They're giant they're giant muscle heads, basically. Which character concept? Someone make a Goliath wizard. I want one. Genuinely want one. Uh, but yeah. So calling the races of D&D races is just incorrect terminology on the outset.
Yeah, I've heard that they've recently changed it from race to species.
Anyway, I I don't think they have. I think they've just tried to bandage the problem as if there's not because there's not really a problem.
Yeah, you know, if you had asked me a year ago, I would have said that gatekeeping fandoms was wrong. This last years has definitely caused me to reevaluate that stance.
Anyway, in the last year, Wizards has made big strides towards fixing the more racist elements of D&D. The upcoming Tasha's Cauldron of Everything sourcebook, for example, will allow players to build a lineage for their character that isn't determined by race, which mitigates some of the more problematic facets of character creation. Until now, creatures like orcs, drow, and tieflings always tended toward evil alignment, and several races embodied stereotypical representations of marginalized people.
Name
Introducing
some. Name some. List
in,
some examples. What
introducing
race? What race is akin to what race in real life? You can't just say that without providing examples.
Introducing the lineage mechanic is an excellent step towards creating a stronger, more inclusive community at the table. Nevertheless, Wizards also needs to consider another race-related rule change, eliminating racial bonuses completely. Ah, and here is the problem with allowing these people to have anything. Once you start, you cannot stop. So they ba- so someone somewhere decided the orcs were racist because they equivalated that saw because they believed they represented black people.
Also that guy, the guy who started this whole thing, he's not even a D&D fan. He said
Yeah.
yeah, he said that D&D is not really his go-to game.
Mhm.
Let that sink in.
There's
You're changing the mechanics of the game to cater to not fans.
yeah, to cater to someone who's not going to play and I would be willing to bet neither will this author.
As somebody who hosted a D&D campaign, I can assure you that yeah, everybody in my party was very diverse. There was no problem. There was no problem to begin with.
And further, just because it's even said in like the Dungeon Master's guide in the DM guide, in the player's handbook, like these are guidelines. This is not how the this is for a these are the races for a specific world and you can do what you want.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like going back to my D&D campaign. So orcs are described in the game as just kind of being like raiders and pillagers, but I portrayed them as just simply being extremely territorial people. Just saying, like, you don't have to follow the guideline.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have like that's the thing. You can create your own world to exist in for the existence of D&D. Like that's the why these arguments make no sense. Like if the lineage aspect was geared towards, oh, if you wanted towards dungeon masters and creating like, oh, if you wanted a certain race to be different or you wanted to create variants of humans and because for variants of humans or elves or something, that would be awesome. But this is purely brought into existence because they got called name. Because wizards got called names, and so now, oh, they have to say, we're not racist, we're not racist. The problem is they're gonna keep these people like the author here, Samantha Puck, are going to keep demanding proof that they're not racist. The problem, the biggest problem, is that wizards, you can't ever prove a negative. So all you have to do is ignore these people, and they will never darken your doorstep again. Because the more you give in to them, the more they will demand from you. And this is a great example. Like, oh, your lineage feature, which basically tears apart the entire racial system in your the entire racial mechanic in the player's handbook or in any other handbook. Well, that's not enough. We want more. Yeah, and this whole thing, uh, drow are raised used to be evil. Like they're raised in a society like that. And there are chaotic neutral drows. There are chaotic neutral or even good drow. Oh, they're just raised in a society that values cruelty and deception.
Well, you know that journalists like this are going to just spin that into a whole other narrative, trying to say it's
Probably.
like allegorical for certain cultures in real life. Cultures,
Probably. The problem is
uh,
they can't do it with the drow because the drow are matriarchal.
yeah. Well, normies don't have to know that.
Exactly. He worse than you. These kind of people will push actual fans who would spend like maybe thousands of their dollars over the course of their entire lives is dedicated to this fandom of their time dedicated to this fandom, just away because they don't want you anymore because you're not good enough because as you acknowledge like because you believe certain things like, oh, I don't know, well, 40K doesn't need diversity because everyone's fucked. No one gives a fuck. We have literal space insects that eat life. That eat life, and there are quite literal real gods that spread plague, disease, and debauchery across the galaxy. We have bigger fish to fry than what is the than is the guy next in the hab block next to me fucking the guy in the hab block below me. No one cares. because we have better things to do.
All right, moving on.
No. Where's the rest of the article? Oh, oops. I'm an idiot. Hold on. There we go. I mean, I would say the Sororitas are not the Space Marines equal, but like they are basically they're they are they are basically like the female Space Marine in terms of in universe capability. I think the Sororitas are not the Space Marines equal, but they're the equivalent of female Space Marines. Like I get it. Aside from language proficiencies and perhaps dark vision, the racial bonuses feature in Dungeons and Dragons doesn't actually add anything useful to the game. It discourages players
Depends
from
on how you're playing it.
It discourages players from building characters with races they're actually interested in exploring by penalizing them with lower scores in some areas while simultaneously providing bonuses for others that don't actually have anything to do with race.
This is an imaginary scenario you just came up with.
Yeah, exactly. I personally played a Tiefling Druid. The Tiefling gets bonuses to Charisma, and that, like, I got bonuses to Charisma. That was it. I didn't get bonuses to anything else. Or anything like that. Like, I've also played a like I've played in an evil campaign as a neutral character. Like this is an imaginary scenario. People will play whatever race is their favorite.
Yeah,
Like,
man, they'll do it regardless of the perks, because every race has perks anyway.
and honestly, within this scenario, this is why I don't like the point buy system because I think it actively encourages people to choose human over anything else. Like you can choose something else, but personally I think it encourages people to choose human over anything else because human just has because the point buy system, especially 27 point buy, means like you can basically max out one stat, but then you're fucked otherwise. So with human you just get everything neutral. Well, this personally I don't like the that's why I don't like the point buy system. But that's my personal opinion. Some people love the point buy system and think it's a great way to have balanced characters. So this isn't like an imaginary scenario, but like for new players, they're going to play the race they want. And for veteran players, they'll have their favorite race they'll play. And they'll have their favorite race they'll play or they'll try some or if for some players that are like entering their second or third character, they'll want to try something new. They may want to try something new.
Yeah,
Like
another thing is that because each race has their own different traits, that gives the game a lot of replay value.
exactly.
Very, yeah, it's very replayable. Like you try it out as a human, like okay, cool. Now I want to try out the half orc. They got so usually because they're a lot stronger.
I want to play a Tabaxi. I want to play an Elephant Man. I want to play a Minotaur. Like
An elephant man.
Ravnica.
So is it like a half human, half elephant, or is it like the actual elephant man?
There are people of El there are people that are elephant like. I can't remember their race name, but you can Google like D&D elephant race. There's space hippos too.
Really?
Yes,
Space hippos?
hand to god space hippos. But like that's the thing. Like each there's a there's a turtle race. Like there's a race of turtle people.
Oh shit, man! I'm gonna make my if I do that one, I'm just gonna make him sound like Michelangelo the whole time.
Mm. But like that's the thing. If you want to play a certain class, yes, there's going to be an optimized race for that class. But at the same time, nobody, not even your DM is going to tell you you can't play that race and class together. Like I want to do a Fearbolg rogue. I think that would be interesting because Fearbolgs can't lie. Like they're not raised knowing what deception is, so I think it'd be something interesting. And that's the thing. Like this is an imagined scenario because people will play the races they want. Penalizing lower scores in some areas while simultaneously providing bonuses for others they don't actually have anything to do with race. What do you mean by this? Like penalizing them with lower scores? The only races with negative attributes tend to be monstrous races, and the DM that and honestly, if you go up to your DM and say, "Hey, are you cool with me just not are you cool with us like not doing the negative racial attributes?" Oots and explain like, "Hey, it's kind of not cool that all the mainstream races sort of get these bonuses, sort of get all positive bonuses but no negatives." Like it's all about just communicating with your DM in that scenario. And even if the DM says no, oh, and you still want to play the race, you can move on. Be like, okay, I'll account for that when I do my stats. Right. Or or you can be like, my goal is to find something that will make me smarter or more or stronger or anything like that. Like that could be a character goal. Like there are so many ways you can turn negatives into positives, and honestly, I hate to use an example from Critical Role because the more I hear about it, the more I've found Critical Role has influenced D&D to somewhat of a negative extent. But my the best example of a character with a negative attribute, with a negative stat line, is Grog. He's basically got no intelligence. He's not smart at all. He can't read. And he is played very, very well. That negative is turned into something that is used in the game, not just for comedy, but to build upon the character. So, negative attributes, even negative racial scoring, can be turned into something that you work in with the character. These differences not only punish players, but advance harmful stereotypes that dungeon masters and players then have to work around or subvert in their campaigns. That's not to say
What stereotype?
anti-racist work
What
into tabletop
stereo?
RPGs isn't necessary. It absolutely is, but the fact is the D&D framework makes this task much harder. I would wonder what stereotypes you're talking about, and working around or subverting things that uh or subverting things within the campaign, that's the players and the DM's job. That's called playing the game. Like, what harmful stereotypes? And if I were to place the the party in a world, or hell, Faerun itself, the Dragonborn by and large are fairly rare creatures. They have like one major city, and most of them live there. So the idea that a Dragonborn is just walking around and no one really reacts to it is very silly. The same is true of tieflings. Like, there should be some natural mistrust of tieflings in society because they look like devils. And these are not harmful stereotypes. These are things that the players and both the DM and the players have to understand about playing Dungeons and Dragons. Now, if you're playing in Waterdeep, that's a different story because Waterdeep has like Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, the Neverwinter, the populous cities probably see people of all races come through them, so they wouldn't be shocking. But if you're talking about like Podunk Town #1, they've probably never seen a tiefling before. They're not really going to know how to react. But if we're talking about harmful stereotypes at the table, I fail to see how the choice of race is in any way equivalent to what race a person is. Like, I don't get it. Orcs shouldn't inherently have lower intelligence scores. Humans shouldn't get a +1 to every single skill. Furthermore, racial bonuses present intersecting issues for marginalized people. Posting that waif-like creatures have higher dexterity than hardier ones may not seem that harmful, but it's actually pretty fat-phobic.
Stop making up words.
And that's not to mention physical or mental disabilities, which are all but missing from the official game materials. So what?
Ugh. Okay, and this is an actual link. Let's see here. So let's see. D&D fan created combat wheelchair establishes baseline inclusivity.
Like, D&D is intended, at least the base game of D&D is intended to be a fantasy setting.
Okay. Also, how many people actually give a shit about this kind of shit about physically disabled people?
I mean,
I
further,
mean, okay, if sitting in a wheelchair, if sitting in a wheelchair is part of your identity, then you have a very sad, pathetic existence. If that's all there is to you.
I agree. Like, if honestly, and I think if you were to go up to someone who had spent it some of their life in a wheelchair at one time, just because like a veteran who lost both his legs for whatever reason, or a child who had been paralyzed all his life and said, "Well, you're in a wheelchair. That's what defines you." I think they'd be insulted. I would genuinely think they would be offended that told them their physical and mental handicap defined who they are as a person. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. There are uh, I mean, think about it. Like, what am I trying? I'm trying to say something. To give me a second. All right, I got it. So these the people with physical handicaps work to overcome them. And yes, there are things that someone who's wheelchair bound can't do. But they but most of them accept that and move on. And if you've been in a wheelchair all your life, yes, that will define part of who you are, because it is the perspective by which you will form most of your experiences. But if you act like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair, or that's all there is to me, that's pretty boring. Are you not physically active? Do you not have interests outside of just being in a wheelchair? Also, fat phobia is not a thing.
Eat a salad.
Yeah. I mean, I would not describe the elves as waif like. I would not describe the elves as waif like, because they have higher dexterity than most races. But again, another thing about all of this entire paragraph is that this can literally be changed in the stats. Like, an orc could be a wizard. You just have to accept that your intelligence from the outset is going to be a little bit lower than what you want it to be. You could have a pure-blooded orc wizard. You just have to dedicate some of your numbers to them. Like, this is why I say, Miss, uh, the person who's writing this has never played D&D before. Like, there are 6 you can, if you have point buy, you can spend a good portion of your points to get a decent intelligence score. And oh, well, I -2. Orcs have a -1 to intelligence. Okay, my 18 is now a 17, and I did a slightly lower or bonus to my intelligence than anything else. It's not like It's not like 4 levels later, or if you're playing a high level campaign, immediately that racial bonus is completely irrelevant. It doesn't statting your character the way you want for your class to be to work with your class matters far more than the racial bonuses, because any negative can by and large be overcome by setting the stats in the right areas. And so what? And if you're playing a orc barbarian, so what if you have low intelligence? Your intelligence doesn't matter. You're designed to hit things, not think deep philosophical thoughts.
Yeah, another big thing about D&D is, role playing. You're playing a character.
Exactly.
One
And
time one time I played as a half orc, and yeah, I had low intelligence, so I rolled with it. And my character dumb.
and further, in regards to the physical and mental disabilities, why would they want to play an RPG, immerse themselves in a fantasy world where they had the same limitations they do in real life?
Yeah, I guess I guess I could fall under the disability category since I was diagnosed with Asperger's younger, and I also have OCD. But even then, yeah, I don't make any of my characters like. Why would I want to?
Yeah, like that's such a weird thing. Like, oh, what about these people? What about these people who are physically and mentally disabled? Well, why would they want to play that this why would they want to play that game? Why would they want to play an RPG where they have the same handicaps? Like what why wouldn't they want to play the hero with the nimble why wouldn't someone in a wheelchair want to play the nimble ranger who can run who swings and runs from tree to tree, he strafing like orc invaders as they go with her with their bow. Why wouldn't a deaf person want to play a bard or like to enjoy music, to be that person that spreads music and joy to the people? Like I fail to see how this last thing would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, SJWs have this really weird obsession with disabled people. There was a there was this thing a while back. I think someone had made this post on Twitter where people they invented these hearing aids for this toddler so he can actually hear for the first time, and people on Twitter bitched about it. They pretty much bitched about giving this deaf kid the ability to hear.
Yeah. Plus, players already get advantages or disadvantages based on their class selection, which is a stronger and more accurate measurement of their skills than their race. As it stands now, it's difficult to build characters of certain race class combos because of how these bonuses work for or against each other, meaning players can create wildly overpowered PCs or incredibly fragile ones without meaning to do either. This makes it hard to balance not only as individuals but as a party of adventurers too. But that entire paragraph is part of overcoming the game. Part of the game. Like you're literally describing how the game functions. Oh, your wizard can't take two hits from this random monster that the DM dropped. What a shock. Your like zero constitution wizard, despite being human, had having that racial bonus, this can't take many hits? Huh, that's weird. That's weird. Your Goliath wizard, meanwhile, can take a couple more hits. Can take a couple more hits thanks to his bonus and his racial bonus. Yes, but still not many, as well, he's dedicated most of his life to learning to learning how to throw fireballs. How about your goblin? Like, this is all part of the game, part of DM power balance, part of the DM balancing power, or part of like that's all of that. All of this is part of the game. Like having weird esoteric race class combos, perfectly fine. You know, I'm fine with having a Kinku Bard. Heard? I think that would be hilarious. His, I think that would be hilarious because Kinku can't actually speak for themselves; they can only mimic. So it's somewhat of a having a goblin mm, uh having a goblin cleric, hey, why not? Like, overcoming the obstacles before you, no matter what, is playing the game of D&D. And this is, like, it's such a stupid argument. Like, oh, because certain race class combos aren't optimized, aren't ideal, well, that means that D&D is racist. No, not every race and class is meant to work together. So what? Play them anyway. Unless your entire table is obsessed with optimizing, with the optimized character builds, well, there's no reason why you should restrict yourself like that. And I don't know any DM who would tell you, "Oh no, you can't play that race and class together because you'll be way weak and way fragile." Well, if that player makes a fragile race class combo, well, they're going to learn the first combat encounter and they're going to play around that. Or that PC is going to die. And that's not a bad thing. That's just how you play the game. By eliminating racial bonuses, Wizards of the Coast would allow players more freedom at the table to continue to prove its commitment to inclusivity and diversity. These bonuses ultimately don't serve a purpose aside from restricting players and creating in-universe harm, which can exist without an inherently flawed system exacerbating tensions or making some characters feel like they're preternaturally better than others.
What it must be like to live in this person's world.
I know, right? I've
I
never
don't know
played
what.
D&D, but Wizards of the Coast needs to eliminate the racial bonus system.
Yeah, I think about. I kind of wonder, does this person actually believe in what she wrote?
Probably.
Because I'm reminded of back in, it was like that. It was that video back in, like, it was like VidCon 2017 when like Anita Sarkeesian had her own panel, and like one of the guys during the Q&A portion, a guy just straight up asked her, "Do you actually believe in like half the stuff you say?" And her response is like telling staff to get the guy out of there.
Yep, that happened.
I wonder how long it'll take till they start bitching about the color of the dragon. Since in D&D the color of the dragon's skin,
The chromatic dragons are evil.
yeah, the color of their skin determines their personality.
Yeah, exactly. Someone somewhere will, probably. And don't worry, if they do, we'll be there.
And I wonder if they also try to claim it's
Oh.
ableist that wyverns are not true dragons because of their two legs.
Hmm. I just realized I had the logo on the whole time.
Yep.
Sorry.
Wah, wah, wah.
Come here.
I mean, you can just leave a link to the
Yeah,
article.
I'll leave a link in the description of the video. Oh. Wow, we're short. This is a short one, but
Well, last video we made was extremely long.
yeah, we've got the a whole 4 hours. Plus, I think not last week's, but week before last episode was like 2 hours, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, the cuties one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
the cuties was 2 hours. So yeah, this one
Yeah.
can be a little bit short.
Okay. Yeah, the cuties was an hour and a half.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but that's one of the ones I had. The other one was weird, but
Was it that D&D playground one?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I see it on the I see it on the right side of the page. Dungeons and Dragons.
Really? Really,
Fun
cat?
fun kills, same page tool solves playground conflicts.
If you heard that, that was my cat knocking something off my desk.
Oops. So is that just the thing cats do? They just climb all over your furniture?
Well, he's a kitten, so he doesn't fucking know when to stop. Anyway, I'll have to go fix that at some point. But anyway, I don't think that second article I sent is worth our time. So, that's all I have. Got anything else?
Um, nope. Make sure just fight for your fandoms, I guess. Then again, I guess it doesn't really matter because eventually the corporations running said fandoms will just cave in anyway.
Not necessarily.
We'll just have to see what happens.
Well, the problem is that worse than you. The problem is the kitten that knocked something off my desk. The thing it knocked off was not mine. So, if it's broken, I have to pay for it.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah, Cutie's remarked was streamed 1 week ago, worse than you.
No, it was 2 weeks ago. Last week we did Enola Holmes.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
but yes.
look forward to that.
Yeah. If I can get it to export, good go out. Good lord.
Yeah, if the Enola Holmes thing does well enough, we might do more like reaction to Netflix
Mm.
original movies and TV shows.
I've been kind of wanting to do She-Ra. That might be one that we do.
I don't know why I said Netflix TV show. That's a bit of an oxymoron.
But anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. On this episode of the Academic Ale House. Like I said, I'll leave a link to the article in the description if you want to read it for yourself, but I basically read it word for word, so there's no real reason to. Anyway, so much. Y'all have remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Uh, just a heads up, starting probably tomorrow around noon 1:30, I will be streaming Metro. Starting from the first game, going to the last. From Metro 1 to Metro 20, from Metro 23 to Metro Exodus, I'll be playing all three. So, and that will be on our Twitch channel, which is just Twitch at Academic Ale House hosts on Twitch. All right. Anything to add, Caesar?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right.